I'm Brandon Love, and this is Magician's Workshop with Dr. Todd.
Hello, my magical friends. Today we are going to talk with Brandon Love, who is a professional speaker and magician. He is also an author that has dedicated his career to inspiring individuals and organizations to unlock their creative potential and embrace new possibilities. With over a decade of experience, he has captivated audiences across North America through his unique blend of magic, psychology, and motivational speaking. So as always, make sure you like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And here is our interview with Brandon Love.
100%. I dig the vibe of this podcast, the idea of seeing the world of magic when you're kind of like on the cusp of being a serious hobbyist. Like I remember having a kit, going to the library, but where do you go from there? So this sounds like a great idea to talk to folks about.
Yeah, and so
Super cool.
That's where we're gonna start basically at the beginning.
Cool.
We're gonna work our way through where you are today. So to start, what is your first memory of magic? Did you have a magic kit or saw something on TV? What do you remember?
I know that I've always loved magic. Do you know Jared Kopf? You familiar with Jared? He's
not really. I probably have heard the name or seen him.
Sure, you've probably come across him somehow. Jared is a real wizard, and he likes to say, people ask all the time, when did you first get into magic? And he likes to say, when did you fall out of magic? And it's a little bit saucy, but I like the idea. And so I kind of feel like I always, we all love it. But my earliest clear memory is watching David Copperfield's The Mystery on the Orient Express when he makes the train vanish. I was 7 years old, and at the time I knew I loved magic because I know we would circle it on the calendar whenever Copperfield was going to do his next big thing. It was a big deal in my house. So the illusion where he calls you up to the screen and invites somebody in the house to put their finger on one of 12 different choices and systematically follow his instructions. And is this your item? And it just blew my mind so differently. Like that was my first real magical moment. Like, holy, that shouldn't have happened.
Wow.
And that was like the real bug bite at that time. And then that, it's the story. Everybody's got the same story. This magician's origin story of catching the bug, and then you get a kit, and then you get a book, and you just keep going down the trail.
Do you remember what your first magic book was?
Oh, yes, but it wasn't anything. It was sort of like an off-brand book, intro to magic of some sort. It had really great photos, but I've never seen it. I don't even know where it would be. I don't even know if I still have it. But it was kind of an intro to close-up magic, and it was the first book that I think I read Cups and Balls in.
Okay.
Introduced to the method of that.
When did you break out into professional magician?
So I loved magic as a kid, did it wherever I could, and then I fell out of love. Like I just got other hobbies. And then David Blaine came out, and he was the next big thing, and he showed me that card tricks could make people run away. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is a different, again, kind of awakening for me. So me and my buddy in university started performing at the bars or with friends wherever we could. And that led to somebody at a bar said, hey, could you do my birthday? And I was like, yeah. Do you want to pay us? And it's like $100 or something. But we're like, heck yeah, let's do it. So that led to another birthday party, and that led to doing shows, haphazardly. And I think that's probably how lots of people start to I didn't really ever decide. I don't remember ever really deciding to be a professional magician, and maybe in part because I don't I am a magician, but I don't lead with magic. It's the medium, but also the message for me. Um, so at some point, I started doing shows with magic, where I was trying to convey some sort of message because I just love. I love seeing magic and I love reading magic and I love learning magic because of how it can teach us how we think. Just like when I read a brand new mind blowing method to some effect, or when I get insight, or I see something that I should never happen, it just is totally impossible. As a magician, I know you get this feeling too, but it's just a constant reminder that there's more to the story. So there's this beautiful messaging that comes with magic. I started doing shows and would talk about how magic teaches us about possibilities and what that can mean for leadership or student leadership. If you're planning events, how can magic help you think differently? I started doing assemblies in high schools, sort of like using magic to talk about, again, maybe getting along or respect. There's a whole host of things and metaphors you can attach to it. And I guess progressively, I feel like I've just been honing closer and closer to my own story of what magic is and being able to fully share that with folks. It's been professional by accident, I guess, but also by choice because I knew I always wanted to continue doing magic tricks. So I found a way to do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, yeah, you found a way to use your passion with another passion.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did you decide that you wanted to be a speaker in the first place? Where did that come from?
Yeah, it's a great question because I don't know the moment, but I know when I performed effects when I was in university, I would try to add a moral to the story somehow in those early days, or I would invite, what does this mean? I'm a big fan of saying, so what? And the older I get, I recognize sometimes the doing of the thing itself is enough reason for so what, right? But when I was younger, I thought magic can be a tool, and it's kind of like it's a superpower. And so we should try to use that superpower for good. And for me at that time, that looked like attaching a message to it, not in a religious way, but I would do Professor's Nightmare and talk about being connected for a little bit like you've seen Torn and Restored Thread, like the dragon thread or something, right? A lot of times that's told with a bit of a metaphor about how things get broken, things fall apart, but we can put it all back together with a positive mind or whatever you want to say, right?
And that's one of the things I found with having a magic kit. That's where I was disconnecting with a magic kit, because you get all these products that are just, the audience knows that they could do the magic if they have that gizmo. So it's like, well, if I have that cup, I could probably do that. It's not a performance, it's a trick. But watching a performance, you watch somebody like Lucy Darling, who in 1 hour does 5 tricks, yet it's the best magic show you've ever seen in your life. So I get what you're saying. And I love what you're saying. It really goes to show that no matter what you do in your life, magic is actually a very accessible hobby, and it can improve your daily life. As corny as that sounds, it's a great tool that anybody can use at any level.
Yeah, 100%. It's an interesting thing to think of it as a tool, like to think of magic as a tool for self-improvement or others' improvement, just to make the world a better thing, a better place. And it's not to say that there's any one right way of using that tool either. That's the other thing. Like, I love that you mentioned that the craft of being able to spin a performance, to spin a web out of a mountain out of a molehill is fantastic. That's brilliant. And so is sometimes taking a trick out of the box and displaying it as the instructions tell you to do it, for somebody that creates a moment for them that just is unlike anything they've experienced before. But these are thoughts of later me, more present me. My 20 and 25-year-old self thought, like, this is a tool, so I should use it really intentionally. I should try to, if I'm telling a story, I should decide how that story's supposed to go. And it fit with student leadership at the time. The honest extra influence, and I should give credit to my buddy Joel. My buddy has been a business associate and colleague and friend for many, many years. We went to the same university together. He rode a unicycle and juggled, and I did magic. So we shared a stage one year from some student event, and became buddies after that. And he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm becoming a speaker. I'm going to teach these leadership workshops in high schools in Canada. I'm hoping you can teach me a magic trick that I can incorporate with some messaging." And we got together and I taught him a few things. And he said, "Yeah, you should be a speaker." I had no idea that was a thing. I didn't know what the job was. So I waited a second, I guess, learned a little bit about what he was doing, basically having fun, playing games, talking about how to live a better life and get more out of being a student. It's like, heck yeah, I could be a speaker. Yeah. And so that's where that shift came in for sure. And been doing it ever since.
Could you tell that you had a more positive reaction using magic during a lecture? Have you always had them together, or have you done one without, and to see the difference?
Yeah, I don't actually know if I can separate the two anymore, because I guess sometimes I do tricks without explaining anything. Maybe that's the separation. Am I performing and then talking about the performance, or am I just performing? And it's usually both. Usually I'm doing something and I'll talk about what I'm doing a little bit, as though to say, hey, here's a little peek behind the curtain. Although I never tell them how it works. I try to help people see why it works. That's where the real power is anyway.
How do you develop an act? Do you start with the trick and then design the talking points around what the trick does? Or do you start with the talking points and find a trick that matches that?
Yeah, and it's another thing. Like when you mention our lectures improved by magic, I giggled to myself, because yes, I was trying to be a speaker who used magic, but I got hired as a magician who spoke. Like most of the time, once they read magician, especially for student events, it was like, "Oh, you're a magician? Oh, and you talk about leadership? Oh, great." Like, come on in the door.
Okay.
So I didn't have to be as clear about the messaging. I tried to be, but if I had a great trick, I would find a message to weave from the trick. Now I'm more focused on what's the idea that I want to convey, or what is the big takeaway, and work backwards from that to demonstrate the principle or principles.
How do you market yourself to companies? How do you get yourself out there?
So I'm actually just undergone a rebrand, in fact, which is great. I spent 15 years or so in the youth educational space and making the leap into the more corporate organizational world, where people are making decisions all the time. And I feel like the impact could be significant. I've just launched my new website, which is brandonlove.co. As part of this, I've been speaking about the same topics in corporations and with adults basically for years, 10 years. But I finally was able to really crystallize the language around the whole framework. And so now what I offer is what I call the impossibility mindset, or the impossibility framework. It's based off of a line from a poem, actually, of Emily Dickinson, that's called "I Dwell in Possibility." And it was the name of my very first magic show.
Oh, wow. I saw that on your Instagram. And Emily Dickinson, well known for her positive vibes.
Oh, and possibilities, frankly. She's for her positive vibes, right? Classically, yes. But with possibilities, all the possibilities. Maybe that's why she was so positive. Yeah, so I've got a new website, and I am writing a book as well. I can briefly share my philosophy if that's interesting. I don't know.
That would be fantastic. It's great for people that are interested in maybe developing their own brand of magic, or maybe just wanting to use it in their daily lives a little bit more. So, and I definitely want to hear what you have to say.
Cool. I think as you're saying that, I'm like, oh, I'm not really even talking to this audience right now at all. I feel like I'm not giving anything useful, but yeah, there is something significant about, I think, learning to tell stories with magic and use magic as a medium, truly, whatever that looks like for you. It doesn't have to look like motivation. It doesn't have to look like leadership or self-awareness. It could. Maybe the way that it most expresses is just like in a silent act or in a specific character, like a Lucy Darling. But making the decision to use it as a medium is really important because it's an art. I think sometimes we get caught in the mechanics of stuff. Anyhow, that's on a tangent over here. I was going to talk about philosophy for a minute. So
do it.
I'm really interested in helping people unstick their minds. It's not really great language to say that, but the real problem, the biggest challenge I think in the world is one of overconfidence. I think, and this is, nobody wants to be overconfident. We certainly don't want to admit that we are overconfident. But the way that our society and our biology is structured to value confidence, a lot of us we make decisions because the way things used to work and have always worked, we think will always work. And so we become overconfident in the ways we've done things. When we're in a position of leadership or power, because we've experienced some leadership or power, we assume we have an edge or an expertise. That isn't always true, so we become overconfident there, and we make poorer decisions. And magic actually is a fantastic tool to show people how our overconfidence gets us in trouble. Because often in my keynotes, we'll share the 3-card Monty. There's a million versions of it, but it's called a con game. It's famously a con game. And what people don't know is the con stands for confidence. They think it means control or convict or something like this, condescend, but it's a confidence game. And why is it a confidence game? Because the goal of the dealer is to imbue you with a sense of confidence that you know what's going on, right? Because as soon as you think you know what's going on, that's when you cough up your money. And so I'll let you win a few times. I'll even let you call out somebody else's loss and take their money a few times because I'll have a few people that are showing money to make you feel like you got it, right? It's a confidence game. And when we're most confident, that's when we're also most vulnerable because we put on the blinders and we kind of dig our heads in the sand and we shut ourselves off from possibilities. So,
wow.
Yeah, that's a lot to take in right off the hop.
I immediately thought of a situation where there is a car dealership and somebody's at the car dealership saying, "This doesn't make any sense. Why are we doing stuff like this?" And they say, "Well, that's just the car business." And when I heard that, I said, "Why? Why does it have to be?" Is that kind of what you're talking about? That kind of mindset?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Just a single example, like on large scale, most of our human-caused disasters are a result of overconfidence in one way or another. Project management, we always underestimate how long things take. I know you've experienced this just because I've experienced it. And it's like this human thing, the planning fallacy. It shows up in these little decisions where somebody decides to do a thing because that's the way it's always been done. Unfortunately, we miss out, I think. And not to say that that's the wrong way, but it's helpful to take our heads out of the sand every once in a while and get some new possibilities to reassess and be constantly growing and learning.
Okay.
So
how do you not go too far the other way where you have a problem where you can't make a decision because you can't see the path without that confidence?
Totally. Yeah, you need to have like a certainty pocket for sure in which to make decisions. So there's a practice of swinging the pendulum. The biggest challenge for me in the beginning was, how do I go into an organization and tell people that you're overconfident in what you think you know? Like, that's a pretty offensive place to begin. And it's not to say you, it's to say us. This is a we thing. I'm just as overconfident too. And the irony is not lost on me as I stand on this stage. But if we're willing to acknowledge that we can become overconfident, if we're willing to acknowledge that we're blind to our blind spots, it's an invitation to invite possibility seeking. Yes, there is a risk that, we'll get paralyzed by possibilities, that we'll spend too much time and not really making any decisions. So it is iterative. It is important to you check, make some choices, and then you test and experiment to see if those choices are a good fit. But then come back up for air and have a look around. Kind of like a cycle.
So you use the magic tricks kind of like allegories to kind of stick in your mind. So afterwards, it's not just a bunch of words. They're actually going, oh yeah, it was that trick that he did that sticks out in your mind. So it helps you remember what you were talking about.
Yeah, the 3-card Monty is, we get to do it. Hey, you want to see it? It's awesome. What is this thing? It's a con game. Why does it work? Because you all believed with conviction. You knew with certainty that the queen was there. Magic reminds us we're always missing something. This is the most beautiful thing, and I can always do a magic trick. It's the message, that is the singular best message I think magic offers us, is that we're always missing something.
Yeah, magic reminds us that we're always missing something. I liked that you said that you talked about needing a certainty pocket, which I believe you can find at Penguin Magic. I believe it's on sale right now. You can hide all of your hard-boiled eggs in it.
A couple of them anyway. Yes.
Can you tell me what I love this. I love it when magic meets corporate talk. What is a certainty pocket?
You need a window of certainty. So sometimes people get caught up in a task. This big a task. Writing a book. You could go any direction writing a book. There's a lot of different possibilities you could take. But if you say, no, what I need to decide is within these 3 possibilities. Can you give yourself a framework where it's easier to make decisions? In your calendar, can you block, you have emails to check, whatever. Can you give yourself the certainty of knowing that email checking time, no matter how many emails I have, that's only 10 minutes. And you commit to that pocket of time, and it creates a sense of closure to things through working, but also provides the ability to explore possibilities.
How do you develop your talks?
I recognize this is so cerebral right now. We're all up in the head, but books, many. It's so interesting. I just really feel like everything now. It sounds so hippie. My whole life is pointed to this moment. Everything I've read has directed me here. It sounds so corny, but in a way, I kind of feel like that's true. And it's self-reinforcing because I'm actively looking for it reflected in the books that I read. I'm trying to trace it back to when did I first have this experience of mystery and its power beyond? When did it become really valuable to me to pay attention to what I wasn't paying attention to? And why do I think that's so urgent in the world? I think so much of our challenges would be differently managed if we were willing to acknowledge just how much we're missing, inevitably, all the time. And once we ask, what are you missing? It opens the door for other people's takes, right? Because if we're all kind of missing the story, at least the whole story, then I can say, what do you see? And that invites a level of trust and shared connection too, right? Because now we're talking about our similar experience from different angles. And then finally, we can kind of get a better sense of what the thing is and come up with a plan to use it or not use it or incorporate it. And that's where we get to what if, and it's imagine what you could do or not do and then try it out. It's all been kind of about that little framework of those 3 questions. What am I missing? What do you see? What if? The more that we ask them, the more we get out of the familiar, sticky ways of thinking. And we find we grow, we learn, we take action, we move forward, we move through stuff. I guess it's not formulaic in that it will always guarantee success, but it will always guarantee.
Okay. Doesn't always guarantee success, but guarantees growth. I like that. Do you ever find that you've had to win the crowd over?
Oh yeah.
And what works for you to get them on your side? Is there like a particular opener that you have, or do you just plow through it and hope for the best?
Yeah, I mean, probably started out with the plowing through it, hoping for the best. I actually developed an interesting talent, or skill, I should say, skill that everybody has. I've just honed it because I was afraid of teenagers.
We all are.
Right?
Yeah, I've got two of them.
Okay. So yes, absolutely, the fear is real. So I remember being at a particularly large student event. There were 400 or 500 students in the room, and I was a pretty fresh new speaker. This was definitely the biggest crowd I was going to work, and my heart was racing. And I thought, well, if I make some friends in this crowd right now, like if I can introduce myself to 4 or 5 people, get them on my team, they'll be in the audience cheering me on, and the people around them will have to cheer me on. They'll be on my side too.
Okay.
So that's going to buy me like 20% of the audience is going to be on my team by virtue of me going to do this little thing right now. Doesn't make sense rationally, but it was logical to me at the time. And so I would go and bring a pack of cards, or I would wear a ring and just do a few little like sleight of hand tricks with a ring and stumble into people. Hey, how you doing? I'm Brandon. Nice to meet you. What's your name? And I'd ask for their name and then remember it, just like commit it to memory. And I do this for 4 or 5 people. And then I would be on stage. And if I felt like I was losing the crowd, I could directly look at one of these people I'd introduced myself to, call them out by name and say, hey, would you mind helping me out on stage with a thing? Kennedy, would you mind joining me up here? Whatever it is. And
cool.
The whole audience then goes, what? Does he know our names? It was fantastic. And so then I started trying to learn as many people's names as I could, just so I could call them out by it. And one of my claims to fame when I was doing student presentations was I could remember a room full of students up to, I think my biggest number was 110.
Wow.
Student names within 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
What was your, do you have a specific technique for doing
Spelling.
Spelling.
Yeah, because I'm a visual learner myself. And when I hear words, I see words, or it's easier if I can see the words to hear them. I guess closed captions, right? For the hearing impaired. Or for me to make sense of videos, because I'll see and hear them better. And, oh, shucks, now I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Memory.
Yeah,
memory. Got lost. That was not on purpose, I swear.
Good bit.
Memory, yes. So I started learning that if I could ask somebody how they spell their name, I could see it, but it also had the advantage of me forcing us both to think about it for like 10 seconds, which just embedded it a little richer in our minds, or in my mind.
So do you do a pre-show for your, normally do you do a pre-show for your speaking engagements?
Not usually anymore, or rather not in the way that I need to do any secret business for the show. I will often try to interact with people though before the show. If I can even just shake hands with a few people or hang out at the sides of the room instead of, tucked away in a green room, I'd much rather do that. I also think there's something really valuable about getting to see the performer. I think adults feel that too. Like if you see the person who will take the stage walk by, you go, "Ooh."
When you do a contractor, you're pretty much like, all right, it's this many hours, I'll show up this, or how do you work that?
Yeah, I think relationships are important. So if you can spend a little time before and a little time after, that demonstrates you value the relationship, that you value connecting with people, and people really value that. Like they'll reciprocate that as well. I like the humanness of my job, so it feels important to make time to do that. And I think it pays. I think there's like some people feel specially connected to the performer in advance. That's kind of fun. Or they see you as a person. Yeah, so that's my style. But also, I'm a speaker. I'm going to go and be not a full in performance mode performer, magic performance, and then me performing about the magic performance. If that makes sense.
Okay, it does. It does. How long do your talks normally last?
These days, 45 minutes or an hour.
And in 45 minutes, how many magical effects will you usually have?
3. Yeah, maybe
that
maybe
makes
4.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been playing with a new opener that's just kind of fun. It's called The Opener. You've probably seen it. I think I can't remember who did it on Penn and Teller's Fool Us. Adrian Vega, I think. It's the walk out on stage with a handkerchief or silk draped over your hand, and it's one playing card, and the card is determined by the audience, and it's opened up fairly to show that it is the card that is the
very cool card.
It's a great trick. It's super clean and to the point, and establishes me as a professional magician. You know, this guy knows what he's doing. And from there, I don't have to continue coming back to magic because, again, my audiences are mostly interested in the lesson, like the takeaway. How will this improve my life or my team? But then it becomes a treat that I can come back to and say, I've something really cool to show you about that. And I can go and pull something off the shelf.
I saw a picture on your Instagram of you teaching in Rwanda. I guess you were teaching magic, or were you doing the same lecture that you do for kids here, but just in Rwanda?
No, but related to teaching. So Joel, the guy I mentioned earlier, and myself, we
love Joel.
Love Joel.
Love Joel.
We wrote a book together about creativity. And it's called Brain Sprouting, How to Become Fearlessly Creative and Have Better Ideas More Often.
I love that idea.
And we loved it too, so much that we wrote a book about it. We developed this program, like a workshop, and we would do it with students and teachers and entrepreneurs, and it just got a real buzz. People loved the workshop. So I'm like, let's turn it into a book. That book got into the hands of a few people, and one of the fellas had a nonprofit or a social enterprise called 1 Million Teachers. He had just graduated from business school, and he created this organization to help teachers in sub-Saharan Africa get a better teacher's education affordably and accessibly and of pretty good quality. So they were offering through an app programming to help teachers learn teaching skills, classroom management skills, how to lesson plan, how to build backwards from all these different things. Hakeem, the CEO of 1 Million Teachers, read our book and said, we got to put this in our course. And so we turned it into an audio course with slides, and that now gets taught to all the teachers who use this app, which is pretty cool to think brain sprouting is making its way through Africa and around the world. It's kind of fun. And as a part of that, I have visited Rwanda to help. Well, I didn't do anything. In fact, I was sort of a guest. I got invited to join 1 Million Teachers and kind of learn from some teachers who were in the program about their experience. And it was just really cool, beautiful place. And in a few of the classrooms, I was invited to show a magic trick or two.
Very cool.
So I obliged.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Yes.
I won't even leave the state.
You said you're where are you? Maryland?
Maryland, Southern Maryland. We don't get very far.
Okay.
We're too surrounded by water. Where are you located?
I'm in Hamilton, Ontario.
Oh, okay. Yeah. My takeaway is that, one, I always believe that magic is for everybody, and I always believe that it can make your life better, and I always believe that you can incorporate it into just about any job if that gives you joy. I use it individually with patients. You use it for literally to tell a story and to make points.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to ask, what would your advice be to somebody that wants to add magic into what they do?
Just find a magic fan. Like, find somebody who loves magic where you are. Doesn't have to be a customer. Could be somebody you work with. Doesn't have to be somebody you work with. Could be a neighbor. Like, just go and find somebody who loves magic and perform for them. Or if you're feeling risky, perform for everybody. Like, it's the thing is, it's hard to become a performer because that road is never painless. You know, if you decide to take magic into the world, like, and I'm sure a lot of pros would say you don't understand a trick until you performing it. You don't understand the magic until you perform it yourself and what the magic's made of. So, if you want to do magic. I say, like, everywhere, all the time. My favorite thing, I know you don't want to be obnoxious, I guess. Maybe that's a risk. You don't want to be the person that's like a fly. But you could do like trick of the day if you want to do something different, or you find an opportunity to. I always like to say, hey, I'm working on something new. Would you give me some feedback on it? And who doesn't want to offer advice, you know? So then it became like a free pass. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody loves constructive criticism.
100%.
Well, giving it, not necessarily receiving it.
100%. It's okay, maybe one last thought on that. If my big thing is perform magic, if you know why you're performing magic, then it'll be really easy to perform it. You want to add it into work somehow. Why do you want to add it to work? Like, what about it at work would make things better? And if it's to give you more joy, like, great. That's reason enough. You'll find a way to do it. If it's to communicate better with people or engage people better, like, awesome. It's perfect. You have reason enough. Now you know what you're doing it for. Makes that action easier to take.
Awesome. Thanks for all that quality advice.
You're welcome.
I'm now overly confident that I know what you're talking about.
That's the weirdest message in the world to share, man. Like,
I love it.
Yeah. Overconfidence about how much we're overconfident.
Yeah, it's a way of thinking about it that I hadn't thought about before. That's why people want to hear from you. They want to get a different perspective, and you're doing it in a way that is not terrible.
I hope at least not terrible.
So where can the people find you if we want to find more out about Brandon Love? How do we do it?
New website is brandonlove.co. You can sign up there for my weekly article talking about creating possibilities and growing. It's a fun place to be. I'm also on Instagram, Brandon Love Magic, all one word, and on LinkedIn. That's where I'm having a lot of fun conversations with people these days. My market is mostly professionals who are on LinkedIn all the time. And
so you've heard where you can find him. Please look him up, especially on Instagram. He loves that. Brandon Love, thank you so much for talking about your philosophy, how you use magic in your life. It's been a real pleasure, and I hope people learned as much as I did. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Such a pleasure to be here.